Hello, everybody. It is the Macabre Podcast Universe. Welcome back.
This is Micah.
And this is Jordan. And this is the third, and now we're halfway through the Shrek series.
This is Shrek the Third.
Shrek the Third. And this series, I mean, not to give everything away at the top, but this is a prime example of something called diminishing returns. Because the first movie, you're like, this is fun. This kind of turns it on its head. The second movie plays on it, and it's not as good. But you're kind of like, okay.
But it might be funnier than the first one.
Yeah, they double down on the humor, and then all of a sudden you got this movie, and boy, is it a little turd. It could be called, some could call it Shrek the Turd.
Yeah.
So I ran into Mike Combs today at Forage, and he said, I was telling him that all day yesterday I was trying to figure out what my take on this movie was going to be.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, yeah, that movie, like, even my kids don't even, like, if they're rewatching stuff, they're like, oh, well, not that one.
Right.
Like, they'd rather watch one or two.
Right.
So it's kind of across the board.
Which is how you felt when you saw this movie.
Yeah, because with Shrek, it was like, saw it in theaters, and I was, like, astounded. I loved it. Then I saw Shrek 2, and I thought, no way, they topped themselves. And then I saw Shrek 3, saw it with my cousin Christy and Rebecca up in McMinnville, I think. And I was just kind of like, oh, that was boring and bad. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really remember anything from it. I couldn't have told you the plot of the movie, except that he has babies.
You see, I realized about halfway through this movie that I have seen it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened was I was so bored when I first saw it. I forgot that I saw it.
Yeah, it's not very good. But the thing about it is it's not really that bad either.
No.
It just kind of exists.
Yep.
And I think diminishing returns is the theme of this episode.
Yep.
We're sponsored by it this week.
We're sponsored by turds.
Yeah. So this movie's directed by Chris Miller. Now, this is not to be confused with Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the Lego movie guys, the Spider-Verse guys fired from Solo. And what's the other one? 21 Jump Street. It's not those guys. This is a different guy. And Chris Miller was a story artist on the first movie, and he was head of story on the
first
second.
Movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it was co-directed by Raman who was supervising animator on the first two.
Okay.
So
you got people who have been involved the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's produced by Aaron Warner. Screenplay by Jeffrey Price.
Also produced by the director of the first two movies.
Oh, is it? Did I miss that?
That's what it was in the credits.
Oh, whoops. Screenplay by Jeffrey Price, who did a movie starring Jim Carrey that's one of your favorites. He wrote the screenplay to this other movie. Can you guess what it is?
A Jim Carrey movie that's one of my favorites?
One of your favorites.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
No, you got to think broader.
Broader? Is it that... Is it Man on the Moon or something?
Maybe think like a little more holiday themed.
Huh?
Well, and actually...
Oh, The Grinch.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Which
I
actually
love that movie so much.
It's kind of...
That movie, Mike and I rewatched it over Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up... Well, I would watch the movie in the summer at my Nona's house with my brother and sister. And Micah hadn't seen it in a while. And so we watched it.
Bad.
Micah fell asleep.
And
even though he was sleeping, I was still laughing out loud.
It's not good.
I love it.
It's just a very, very ugly movie.
Oh, it's so good.
Roger Ebert put it well, because I was trying to figure out why I didn't like it, and he talked about how the whole movie kind of has a brown hue to it, and I was like, he's right.
No, but it's so funny.
Well, so Jeffrey Price, he makes a Grinch movie about a big green monster, and then he writes the screenplay to a movie about a big green monster.
Wonder what his favorite
Shrek
color
the
is.
Third. I don't know, probably purple. He also did the screenplay for Wild Wild West, the Will Smith movie that famously he was skyrocketing in his career, and then it kind of brought him back to earth.
Oh, really?
Because people did not like that movie.
Oh.
And then Peter S. Seaman, he's the same as Price, and they have the same credits, so I think they're working partners. And then you have Chris Miller and Aaron Warner, the producer and the director of the movie. And then we have story by Andrew Adamson, who is the director of the first two. Music, once again, it's by Harry Gregson Williams. And the other two movies kind of have a pretty nice soundtrack. This one got lost on me. I don't really remember anything exciting about it.
Besides music that dates it.
Yeah, but I mean, the composer has nothing to do with that. But
what's the director's name of the first movie?
Andrew Adamson.
I feel like for some reason he's got the vision.
Yeah.
Because the first two were so good.
Yeah, but this is story by Andrew Adamson.
Yeah, but he didn't direct it.
Yeah. But still, I mean that.
No, I mean, I guess that our biggest problem was the story.
Yeah.
With this.
Yeah. It's produced by DreamWorks Animation, distributed by DreamWorks and Paramount. We got a release date of May 18th, 2007. The movie's 12 years old, Jordan.
Wow. That's crazy.
Budget of the movie, $160 million. And domestically, the movie makes $322,719,944. Worldwide, it makes $798,958,162.
Made a lot of money.
Made a lot of money. So now it's, as far as the standings go, Shrek has made a little over 500 million. Then you have this one at almost 8, and then the last movie, which was 941, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got a couple of notes.
Whoa.
What?
No,
you have to. You said,
no.
whoa.
Wait until you get to my part. Spoiler alert, I did not prepare for this.
Don't tell him that. Don't tell Mike and Rebecca that.
Sorry. Regis is in this movie.
Regis Philbin?
Yeah.
Whoa,
Amy
who is
Poehler's in this movie.
Who are they?
Wait, no, we're not going to talk about
Amy
it.
Poehler is...
We're not going to talk about
she's
it.
Snow White, huh?
How'd you know that?
Because I was thinking of the...
That doesn't sound like her at all.
No,
Maybe
but she had like the most talking time of the side girl characters.
Yeah, but yeah.
So that was my guess, because she's kind of popular around that time.
Shut up. Okay, continue your part. This
okay.
is nuts.
Oh, sounds like the person above us turned off the air conditioning. I hope they're okay. So they announced 3 movies after Shrek 2 in May of 2004. So Jeffrey Katzenberger quoted saying, Shrek 3 and 4 are going to reveal other unanswered questions, and finally in the last chapter we will understand how Shrek came to be in that swamp when we meet him in the first movie.
Whoa, that's 4?
That's what he said. So this was what was said in 2004.
And who said this?
Jeffrey Katzenberg, one of the producers and writers. I don't know if he's a producer, but he wrote the first 2, I think. He's in there. So kind of fun. It's so funny when people say things like this, and finally, like he used the word finally in the last chapter, we'll understand how Shrek came to be in that swamp.
I wasn't wondering that.
Like no one wondered why he's a big green ogre.
Yeah.
So
not everything needs an origin story. Sometimes that's the best part. John Wick 3.
Oh, yeah. Here's the thing, because I imagine if this comes to be, because neither of us have seen Shrek 4, that means that there's going to be like a big, huge reason why he's in Shrek 4 or why he's in the swamp in Shrek 1. And the whole thing, the problem with origin movies, and I'll probably have this rant next week if it's the case, it's like it undermines what happens in the first movie. Mm-hmm. It's like the whole point is he wants to be alone. Mm-hmm. So if, I'm guessing in the 4th movie, if they make it like he's banished to their... then it becomes just a normal fairy tale. Mm-hmm. And the whole series is just not what it claimed to be. We'll see next week. I've never seen it. Yeah, but I'm already thinking that this is Shrek 4 is going to be real bad.
I just hope it's not boring.
Then according to Miller, they, quote, didn't want to just sort of title it like it was just a sequel. They wanted something to make it stand on its own, give it its own personality, and really try to treat it as a chapter in Shrek's life. Hugh remarked, it's about Shrek becoming the new king of Far, Far Away. The title sounds kind of royal as well.
Oh, they talk way
Shrek
too much
the
about the title of this dumb movie. Seriously? Yeah. There are statements about why they titled it this. I don't care. Well, no one cares.
Now in defense of the people, like, if they're making announcements and people are like, what does the title mean? And then people just quote it on Wikipedia, it's going to pop up.
Whatever. Okay. Keep
and
going.
Then the other movies have been very critically accepted. This one, critics weren't very thrilled about. And then, finally, we have our second of this podcast. We have our second time that there is a Tim and Eric link to this movie. So do you...
Wait, the second one didn't have that?
No, I remember we had Ant-Man. In our podcast.
Oh, links. I thought you meant a literal link.
Yeah, no. So in Shrek the Third, there was so much advertising for it that Tim Heidecker and Eric Wareheim were just kind of sick of all the advertising. And so they were getting ready to come out with their, I don't know, like second or third season of Tim and Eric's Awesome Show, Great Job. So they launched this campaign where they would do interviews and
There'd be Shrek posters in the background.
They'd have Shrek posters, and they wouldn't talk about their show. They would talk about how excited they were to go see Shrek the Third. And it's like they're two giggling like little boys getting excited to go see this movie.
They're so funny to watch. Like a compilation.
It's really funny, and it's so easy to find. Just Tim and Eric, Shrek 3. And there's so much.
No, Shrek the Third, because apparently it's really important.
Yeah, but they go to the movies and they come out and they I think they're on like the news talking about it and stuff. Like right. it's just so wild. So they were so sick of it that they decided to talk about it. And that's the most interesting thing about this movie is Tim and Eric. So now I'll hand the reins over to you.
The next interesting thing about this movie that I am now discovering. So, like now in animated movies, the cast is just full of famous people. Like, I feel like voice acting, I wonder what voice actors think about animation today. Like these movies, because I feel like there is less opportunity for voice actors who in the past have made their living on voice acting. Yeah. And now the cast are just...
You know what? Sorry.
Go ahead.
But it was really cool listening to that Comedy Bang Bang with Alan Tudyk. The guy who plays K2SO and is in... he's in Firefly, but
Dodgeball.
He's like, Dodgeball, the pirate. Dodgeball. He's kind of becoming like this Disney animation guy where he does a bunch of different voices and they always put him in a movie, which seems very like old fashioned and fun. And then when he was on Comedy Bang Bang, he was doing different voices. So you're like, oh, they hire him to actually act instead of like how a lot of these movies, they're like, Justin Timberlake, we're hiring you, act like you.
To be Justin Timberlake. They're not hiring Alan Tudyk to be Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, which is way cooler to me.
Comedians that we like to, like Lauren Lapkus, is in some like Cartoon Network shows, I think.
Oh, yeah.
One
I think
for
she's
sure.
Yeah.
And that it's different because they're kids shows, so it's a totally different thing in terms of that. But like, she's an actress, but she also is famous. Like, she is becoming well known for her voice. She also has a lot of podcasts. But then Ben Schwartz, who is becoming much more famous lately. Yeah. But he also, before that, has been in several cartoons. I think he's also written cartoons too, but like, he's a voice actor in cartoons.
Yeah. Awesome.
I feel like that might be part of where he got his start, is for his voice.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what voice actors think, because I wonder if they're like, I can't just be a voice actor anymore. Now I got to be a personality. Now I got to put my face to things, which I wonder is pretty annoying.
Have I ever told you about the weird thing about what's the little robot in Star Wars, the BB-8?
Yeah.
So a long time ago, I saw that Ben Schwartz is like the voice of BB-8.
Yeah.
And then now there's like Bill Hader is the voice of BB-8. Mm-hmm. But both of them talk about separately in interviews how like they're like J.J. Abrams came in and like manipulated their voice and stuff. But the weird thing is none of them talk about the other person.
Oh, what do you think that's about?
So I don't know if that means they mixed it or like one of them made it and the other person didn't and they never told them or something. And I think if you look on IMDb, it's both on their IMDb, but none of them acknowledge it when they're asked about it.
Do you think that they just both went in, did the same takes, but their voice sound different?
I mean, I think they combined them, but it's just odd that it's not like Ben Schwartz isn't like, oh yeah, and Bill Hader also did the voice and stuff. He's like, yeah, I'm the voice of BB-8, I did it. And then now it seems like everyone just says like Bill Hader's the voice of BB-8. People don't talk about Ben Schwartz anymore. It's really weird.
Huh. Interesting.
Could be a false memory. About that. But while you do that, I'm going to look that up because...
No, don't look it up. Listen to this because it's pretty interesting.
No, I don't want to listen.
So when we were watching the movie, Merlin is a character. And I thought for sure it was John Oliver. It sounded so much like him.
Yeah.
And I felt really good about it. Guessing him. It's not him, people. It's Eric Idle, who is another huge Monty Python guy. Among other things, but really Monty Python.
So now they've had two Monty Python heavy hitters.
Yeah. And then...
be careful moving that mic around.
It hurts my hand.
I know. Just be careful. It makes a loud noise.
And then you have Justin Timberlake, who plays Arthur, King Arthur, also known as Artie. His most recent acting credit is The Voice. He was in 4 episodes as a writer, apparently. But Justin Timberlake has been around for so long, best known as being part of NSYNC, right? He's in NSYNC.
Yes,
Aaron Carter was in Backstreet Boys, or his brother was, or something. NSYNC, that was Jordan's group. I was Team NSYNC, not Team Backstreet Boys.
Yeah. I was team neither. I do have an update for BB-8 whenever you're ready on that.
Just go for it.
On Ben Schwartz IMDb, it says unaccredited stormtrooper, and on Bill Hader's, it has nothing. And then if you Google who's the voice of BB-8, it says Ben Schwartz, Bill Hader. How weird is that?
Sounds like that's the answer.
It's just weird. And so this has been BB-8 talk. So you're talking Timberlake right now,
yeah,
right?
His first acting credit is in 1998. Ripping a little bit. It's in I'll Be Home for Christmas, I guess. Wait, what am I looking at?
I'll Be Home for Christmas?
I'm looking at soundtrack. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Which makes sense.
While you're doing that, I just... What did you think of Justin Timberlake's voice performance in this movie?
I don't care about him very much, besides in The Social Network. I really don't care about.
But I mean, what did you... when you were watching it, did you have any reaction to it either way?
It sounded like Justin Timberlake. That's it.
Because I
think he just showed up.
This was a phoned-in performance, if there ever was one.
He clocked off and left and got paid millions of dollars for it. Mm-hmm. Even Cameron Diaz, I feel like, is doing something. Mm-hmm. And she sucks as a person. So, his first several acting credits are NSYNC stuff.
Like videos.
Yeah. I mean, oh man, I'm still scrolling. My finger's gone to the top of my phone and to the bottom several times scrolling. Sorry. I didn't do my homework in advance.
Yeah,
Wow, he is in mostly... he's in the Lonely Island video. The famous one. And
Dick in a Box.
I wasn't going to say it.
Well, I just listened to our Mad Max episode and I quoted Mel Gibson saying some stuff to an officer, so I won't.
He's in that before Shrek the Third, but really he's not in a lot of actual acting things.
Before Shrek 3?
Yeah.
So this puts him on the map of acting?
I guess. I did not mean to click on the love group.
Well, you know what? It probably has to do with Mike Myers and being involved in SNL and like his involvement and then being like, oh yeah, let's get this guy on.
Yeah, probably. I feel like it's also just a good call because Shrek the Third, or Shrek, is known to be a more musical type of movies. You know, like with people singing sometimes. Not like the movies are musicals or not.
For some reason,
like, well, they had like the American Idol. Like they had the American Idol thing.
Right.
So it's like, oh, we'll get Justin Timberlake. He's like an American Idol. I mean, he wasn't on it or anything, but like he fits the
mold
of those things.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you have who plays Lancelot, who is like King Arthur's bully, John Krasinski, which I didn't really hear, but Micah figured it out.
Well, I thought it was someone else first, and then I looked it up, and I was like, no way, that's John Krasinski, and then it made sense.
I mean, do I even need to look up to tell people who this is?
Well, he's famous for some show.
That takes place in an office.
Yeah. Came out a few years ago, and is it that show that everyone is always rewatching?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's good enough for him, I think.
Yeah. And then Captain Hook.
Captain Hook?
Do you remember that character in the movie?
Yeah.
Ian McShane plays him.
Really?
Yeah.
The old hot...
I did not hear him
father
at
of
all.
Hot Rod himself.
But you know what? I wonder if I would now. I don't know, because he does kind of sound like a pirate.
Mm-hmm.
But he always, to me, he's usually just kind of phoning in as a performance in most things that I see him in. He is the same thing, and it's usually great.
Okay.
I like him. Like he's great in John Wick.
Yeah.
But this
John
seems
Wick.
very over the top performance.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about him. For people who don't know, he is in Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, maybe?
Probably.
Let's see. He's got like 139 acting credits.
I've never felt like he phones it in from what I see. He just has like a lane and he stays in that lane, which is, I think that's different than phoning it in, Jordan. Okay. And I think you owe McShane
well, what I'm trying
an
to say
apology.
is I think that he really goes for it in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in the Twilight Zone. I don't know which one.
Okay.
He's in Hot Rod. Oh, that's right. He's in Hot Rod.
Yeah, he's the titular Hot Rod. No.
He's in Coraline. Oh, I'm not going to keep scrolling. Sorry. He's in the Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh. He plays Blackbeard.
Okay, that's got to be...
On Stranger Tides.
Oh. Yeah, there's a fourth one.
And then Regis...
There's a fifth one, I think.
Regis from, Regis and Kelly.
Yeah, wait, give me a hint on who he plays.
I don't know who this is. Mabel? Is that the other sister you think?
Oh, I think it is.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then there's Larry King reprising his role as the other ugly stepsister.
And then you have Amy Poehler, who plays Snow White. Seth Rogen plays Ship Captain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Would not have, he's got one of the most recognizable voices in Hollywood. Did not know.
Yeah, he's Pumbaa.
Didn't recognize that. Maya Rudolph plays Rapunzel.
Oh, okay.
Famous SNL cast member. Amy Sedaris plays Cinderella.
Oh.
And one of her greatest acting roles is BoJack Horseman.
Yeah, she is Princess Caroline.
Yes. And then that's about it.
Okay. So the movie opens, and for the first time in the whole Shrekiverse, there's no storybook intro. Mm-hmm. And it's starting out exactly the way Shrek 2 started. And you see that Prince Charming is doing a dinner theater in front of these patrons who are drunk and not excited to see him. And he's acting out him rescuing the princess, but instead this time he's actually getting the princess.
Yeah, but everyone hates it because it's boring and it's been done so many, everyone's bored with it.
Yeah, which was maybe the theme of maybe the movie's kind of Ouroboros eating its own tail on that one. And then he breaks, he's all upset and he goes outside and he has his green room in the alley.
Yeah, I like that. Thought that was funny.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. And then he's kind of like, I'm going to get my revenge. Mm-hmm. And so that's how the movie begins. And in theory, watching that, I'm like, am I going to like this? Because I kind of like the motive. I like this idea.
I think it is cool that it starts right after the last movie. Like the second one started right after the first movie.
Is this one like right after?
I mean, it's very close after to whatever happened in the second one.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I just assumed it'd been years because he's like washed up.
I don't know. I feel like he was kind of washed up because he lost in the last movie.
Yeah, I guess you're right. And then we see donkey dragons.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
We're kind of introduced to the cast. So you like the donkey dragons?
Super into them, especially that far-sided one.
The donkey dragons, man.
You don't like them?
They're just so ugly to look at.
Oh, they're so cute to me.
I don't think they're cute. They're ugly little creatures.
So what, you like the ogre babies better?
No, the ogre babies are horrible. Okay, they're horrifying.
They're really terrible.
Yeah. Here's another thing.
Wait, that scene when Shrek is having a nightmare about having kids.
Yeah.
And he wakes up and they're on the ship. But Donkey and Puss are both Shrek babies. Like their bodies are the same, but their heads are Shrek babies. And Donkey looks at him and that baby does that gross like puppet thing. Like its mouth opens like it's a puppet.
Yeah.
It's truly disturbing.
Yeah, not great. I maybe I'm just being over the top on this, but I feel like the animation in this movie has two things wrong with it. One is it's like they've now gone far enough that they can do more detail, but they can't go far enough with the detail. So it's in this weird in-between stage that kind of makes it look worse than Shrek 2.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. Like some of the people who were moving didn't look good.
No. And I think the movements in particular, especially if Shrek, like he moves kind of weird. He moves like differently than the other movies.
I agree with that.
And it's like a little stiffer and it just kind of I think the animation in this movie is extremely unimaginative. Like they're not really pushing the boundaries in any way. Not that you have to, but I
don't know. I think this is part of the problem of why the humans look like humans instead of cartoon versions of humans. Like that scene when Fiona is having her baby shower and all of the princesses are there. There's nothing interesting about them.
Yeah.
And I that might be the point, I guess, but like they don't look interesting to me.
No.
Sleeping Beauty could not look more boring. She just has like
hardly looks like Sleeping Beauty.
She looks normal. She doesn't look like a princess. Like Rapunzel's probably the only, and Cinderella, who look like a princess.
Mm-hmm.
But like their facial features are just like, they're obviously beautiful because they're princesses.
Yeah.
That's really boring to me. They don't have like characteristics of any kind.
Yeah.
Some of the like jokes that they say are kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
But that is required of the voice actor, not of the animators.
Mm-hmm.
And the writers.
Yeah. And I was trying to think of one thing I think kind of against this movie is there's not really like Shrek 1, you have like the swamp aesthetic and then the castle aesthetic and then just outdoors. And then Shrek 2, you have more of this other castle and like fairy tales and potions. And then this movie just kind of does both of those things again. And all the sets in this movie are kind of boring. Like when they go to Merlin's place, it's just there's nothing interesting to look
outside.
at.
They don't even go inside his house, and it's probably really cool inside.
Yeah, there should be like potions blowing up.
You know what I just
stuff.
realized? So another example of like an animated human. So Toy Story 2, when you have the toy collector.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like a person, and his features are pretty proportionate. However, he's interesting to look at.
Yeah.
He's funny. Like, I just remember, I feel like even in that movie, he might be like eating Cheetos, and there's like Cheeto dust on his fingers. Or something really cool
there
like
totally
that.
is. Yeah.
But like, he looks like a human. His proportions are pretty, normal. But if you compared this to like the Shrek humans, I bet you everyone would rather look at this person.
Yeah.
Because you look at him and you know that there is so much backstory behind this person. And I don't know when Toy Story 2 came out. Do you think it was around the same time?
Oh, no. This Toy Story 2 has been out for a long time by the time this
so that just
out.
also like further proves my point that that's already been done. That you can look at this animated thing and you know that it's lived a life.
Yeah.
Before what you're currently watching. And then you look at Shrek and all these people are like, oh, they like were just created for this purpose.
Yeah.
So
yes. Yeah.
It's just more interesting visually.
That's a really, really good point. But yeah, so the aesthetic doesn't really change. And again, to kind of compare it to Toy Story, like the godfather of animation, is it's like each movie has distinct visual styles and things they go for that distinguish it from the other movies. Mm-hmm. And this one doesn't. Mm-hmm. It really is like interchangeable with Shrek 1 and 2.
Yep.
And I think kind of like what we talked about with Winter Soldier, it's just when you have the same visual for so long, it's not very interesting to watch after a while.
Yeah.
And we, like, again, Mad Max, another example, Fury Road, it changes aesthetic so many times that you're, like, on the edge of your seat just because of that one choice they made. And
if you're an aspiring filmmaker out there, the simplest thing you could do is just change your color palette.
Yeah.
Just change the colors to even signal that it's the change of an act. Now it's red.
Yeah,
that's the themed color.
It like lifts your brain so much.
Yeah,
and it's so refreshing. It's like getting a cup of dang water.
Yeah.
So that's a big issue I have with this movie, apparently. So then people look slightly worse. I said that. Oh yeah, and Shrek has to fill in for the king for a day.
So the king's sick. Well, let's go back to the story a little bit.
Yeah, well, this is just when he's filling in because they're like out of town. At the beginning of the movie, they're like, hey, let's go in. Oh. And he fills in, and it's like he has to christen a boat, and he accidentally like sinks the boat.
Oh, and then he like kills someone as he's knighting them.
Yeah, and that stuff's pretty funny. Like, I like that scene. And then they have to dress them up in these costumes.
That's not until later.
I thought that was when they fill in, because then they accidentally burn down the thing, and he's like, I cannot do this.
I guess that is the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then...
that part was weird.
It was pretty weird. It was a little gross to look at again. Yeah. And then Fiona kind of goes like, yeah, wouldn't it be fun if we had kids? Huh? And he's like, ha ha ha. I love how it's just you and me in the swamp. Can't wait to get back to the swamp with just you and me and only us. And she's like, but what if there were other little things running around? And he's like, yeah, haha. Wouldn't that be great if it was just you and me? Hinting at the pregnancy. Yeah. And then they get a telegram. Guess what? King Harold, he's dying. Now, one thing that's cool is he's still a frog.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And I like that he keeps dying, quote unquote.
Yeah,
and coming
because
back
he's
to
doing
life.
that thing where he's like, Shrek, I need to tell you one more thing. Ugh. And they're
he
like,
comes
he's
back to
dead, and
life.
he's like, so that thing I was trying to tell you was, and it happens like 4 times. I kind of was hoping it wouldn't ever stop. Like the rest of the movie, he's
Yeah.
just trying to tell him something.
Yeah.
And there's like a fly that lands on the frog's eye.
And his eyeball, his open eyeball.
Yeah, because he's dead, and then the fly flies away, and he catches it with his tongue, and then he finishes his sentence.
Yeah.
That stuff's funny.
Yeah.
And then the frogs sing "Live and Let Die" as he's pushed on a lily pad. And that's funny stuff.
Yeah. And he's put into a Footlocker box, like you're burying a pet.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, we can admit it when it happens. That part's funny.
Yeah. So now the king told Shrek before he died that there is only one other possible heir besides Shrek and Fiona, which
yeah.
Why couldn't it just be Fiona? But it's not really relevant. But
yeah, I guess you're right.
Because she is blood, but whatever. That's not really worth getting into. But so he tells them her cousin Arthur. So he goes. So he decides like, oh, there's another option besides me. I'm gonna go find him so that I can go back to the swamp alone. We've already seen
he sucks at being king.
He's just always he also, classic arc for Shrek. He is always trying to avoid responsibility and growing as a ogre.
Are you trying to say that they repeated an arc from a previous movie on this one?
And they did it in the second one too. But I mean, it's still like worked in a way.
I'm going to save my arc discussion for later because I have a whole take on that as well.
Okay.
This is what I did yesterday at work, just thinking. I also worked, Charla, but I was thinking a lot.
Yeah.
So then we cut back to Prince Charming, and he goes into the seedy bar from Shrek 2, and there's all the bad guys there. You got Hook, you got these mean trees, you got... I
like the trees I think they're from... like Snow White or something.
Yeah, I think so.
They're cool.
And you got like Maleficent there and all that stuff.
The Queen from Snow White's in there too.
Oh, maybe it's that. That's the one. Isn't that? No, that's Sleeping Beauty, huh? Is the Maleficent lady?
Yep.
Glad we have 2 origin movies for Maleficent now.
I don't want to talk about it. Genuinely, I don't. Keep going with the scene.
So then we're doing that whole thing. And they're like, oh, Prince Charming, why are you here? You suck. And then he goes, where's our happily ever afters? And he's like, Shrek gets it, the ogre gets it, but we don't get our happily ever afters. And once again, this idea, kind of into. Mm-hmm. I kind of like this idea, although it doesn't.
I like when he asks the queen from Snow White, the evil queen. I don't remember what her name is, or even if she has one. He's like, what about you? Like, what did you do after she won, basically? And she was like, I don't know. Basically like nothing. It's not fair.
Yeah.
I kind of liked that.
Yeah. Yeah. This is all good stuff. And so he's kind of like, let's team up. Let's storm the castle and I'll become king. Take it from Shrek and Fiona. And then we cut back to Shrek and he's getting on a boat with his friend Donkey and Puss. And Puss is good in this movie as well.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I just like looking at Puss. He's fun.
But as you mentioned, probably halfway through the movie, that one reason why it's so boring is because Donkey and Puss don't do anything.
They don't do anything.
They have nothing to do.
They don't push the plot in any way.
Mm-mm.
They don't.
They're just there for jokes.
Mm-hmm. And the jokes are not. Again, diminishing returns,
Yeah.
The jokes are not that good this time around.
Yeah.
And so as he's leaving, Fiona yells out to him on the boat, and Seth Rogen's the boat captain, apparently. And he's like, she goes, hey, I'm pregnant. And he goes, cool, I didn't hear you. And she goes, I'm pregnant. And then he kind of has this nightmare about ogre babies attacking him.
Which is really scary.
It's pretty weird, because they're overflowing out of the doors and stuff. This is actually probably the one moment in the movie where the animation is actually kind of interesting, though, because they're kind of doing weird stuff and it's lit weird and it's this horror movie kind of thing. So we've done all of that. And now we're breezing through this movie.
Are we really?
already.
I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
I think we're a third of the way done.
Crazy. I'm this bored with the movie.
Again, the funny thing is, though, it's not like I was sitting there totally bored out of my mind. I was just kind of like, I guess I'm watching a movie right now. I didn't really feel this way or that way about it. The more I've thought about it, because I wanted to have something interesting to bring to the table so you as a listener aren't just like, okay, they don't like the movie. Tell me why.
Yeah.
So I wanted to come up with reasons, but it took me a while to actually be like, these are the reasons why I think this movie doesn't work.
I think so. Then they get to basically high school, which is where King Arthur is, which seems like a blend between high school and college. Mm-hmm. So they're doing all of these high school jokes. And I don't know why, maybe I'm just done with them for a while.
Not funny.
But they're just not that funny.
Not funny.
No.
There's like people who get out of a van and it's all smoke filled and they're like, oh, those potions were crazy, man.
Your frankincense and myrrh.
When you say it, it's funnier than when it was in the movie. and there's...
Then you have the mean girls.
Yeah, they're also leaning too much on... So this is another problem with the movie. They're leaning way too much on like current vernacular and current pop culture. So when you watch it now, it's not very funny.
Which is what they do in the other movies. But
yeah, but they didn't lean on it as much as this one. Because I'm talking, there's that girl and she comes up and she's kind of going, oh, whatever. You're like so whatever to me, ogre. And you just go, it's just not funny anymore.
Yeah.
I've seen that parodied a million times.
Yeah.
And even though, again, you can say at the time it was funny. Although even then I doubt it. It's just kind of, it's too specific to like one moment in time that's already over, or we could say it's already ogre. So it's
you got my attention. I'm back.
Anyway, so they go to the
Hawkins. Is that what you're gonna say from Stranger Things?
No, the high school.
Okay.
And then I wrote Arthur is a sucky loser at high school. So we find out he's a sucky loser at high school.
Yep.
Played by a phoned-in
Justin Timberlake. If you want to see a good Justin Timberlake performance, watch Social Network.
Or no, he's not in Moneyball. He's in the Response movie, Trouble with the Curve.
Oh,
you remember that whole thing?
Yeah, but I never saw either of those movies.
Well, I never saw Trouble with the Curve, so I could be wrong. But I remember Moneyball. Aaron, but not on the podcast. I think this is interesting, but it was funny because Moneyball came out and it was like all about statistics and how you could kind of work the system to get a good draft in baseball. And it's got Jonah Hill,
isn't it a true story too?
Yeah, it's one of Brad Pitt's best performances. Aaron Sorkin script, amazing movie.
According
Chris Pratt's in it.
According to Blank Check, their favorite Brad Pitt performance.
Yeah,
and they think that's the peak of his career. Is that movie?
I could see that. Yeah. I'd have to watch it again, but then like the year after that, I think, or maybe 2 years after that, Clint Eastwood came out with this movie, and the whole thing about it was like, yeah, you can use those numbers, kid, but sometimes you just gotta play the game.
Do you think that Clint Eastwood saw Moneyball, and then he got like halfway through it, and he was like, pause it, whoever my current wife is, I gotta make a movie. Moneyball came out in 2011.
Yeah, I kind of think...
Trouble...
Or they like heard rumors of the script and they were like, let's do a response to this movie.
2012, next year.
Yeah, next year. So, and yeah, so...
Clint Eastwood's movies are so interesting. He's got some great ones.
He has some great movies. And then he's got his American Snipers, you know?
Yeah.
And if you want to hear about that, that'll be another pod for another time.
Yeah.
So then there's the baby shower with Fiona. And she is hanging out with Snow White, Rapunzel, all these other fairy tale princesses.
Sleeping Beauty. I'd say the funniest part about that scene is the gift that Snow White gives her, and she gives her a dwarf. And all the dwarf is saying is, "Where's the baby?"
Yeah.
But in a really funny voice. That's the voice. That's funny. It's kind of... Also, they do that funny joke that was in the last two movies, but it didn't include the wolf from Little Red Riding Hood again. Uh-huh. But you always find him in a bed. Yeah. And he's always like, what? But when Shrek was having his nightmare, one of the babies was in his bed reading a baby book. Probably and it kind of looks at him and it's like, huh? Yeah. I like that they kept that joke in there.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Trying to find the silver lining in all of it.
But yeah, the baby shower happens, and Fiona kind of realizes that they're disgusted by her,
Yeah.
and they don't really like her.
Well, they're just petty princesses.
Yeah, and I just, once again, this scene I couldn't figure it out, but I'm just kind of like, I liked it and whatnot, but it just doesn't quite go far enough in either direction of interesting for me.
Nope.
And you had brought up something interesting, which is not going to be my pitch for a fix, but you had said that it would be more interesting if you just followed Fiona during this movie.
Or
And,
just
like, it
put
was
Fiona, switch the roles between Fiona and Shrek, like quite literally. Where
Yeah.
she's going to go and try and find Arthur. And Shrek stays home.
And takes care of the kids or something.
Or the
like
king.
they've already
Yeah, like
had
let's
the
say
kids
that,
or
yeah, she
something.
had a kid. And maybe their issue is something else or something.
Yeah.
But it would just be so, it would continue to flip the fairy, just like the stereotypes on its head, where the girl is going to save the day
Yeah.
while he waits for her.
Yeah.
Huge missed opportunity. That's my fix. That's my fix for the movie.
And I like that fix. I'm interested in that.
But apparently it's not good enough.
No, I just have a different idea.
Apparently guys still need to save the day.
You know me. I loved Captain Marvel, so that proves. So they cut that out, Anthony. They storm the castle. Prince Charming and the bad guys.
Yep. Hook being like his number 2 guy.
And while they do it, I wrote it. This whole movie kind of plays like a TV show, and the jokes feel lazy. But a good part of this scene is when Gingerbread has a flashback to when he's made.
That's so funny.
This is the best part of the movie because he has a Prince.
His life flashes before his eyes.
Yeah, and it shows him like being made, falling in love, like driving
in Shrek
in this
1
car.
when Lord Farquaad was playing with his legs.
You find out that he was captured and that he was in prison, and then it goes to Shrek 1, and you're like, that's kind of nuts a little bit. And then Pinocchio pulls the lawyer move, which is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great joke because Prince Charming's like, where's Shrek?
This group of dudes are because I think they're the funniest in the first and second movie too.
Yeah.
They continue to be the funniest part of the movies, and I hope they're in the Puss in Boots movie.
Oh, I don't think so because it takes place before Shrek.
Okay, but maybe somehow they're in it or something.
Well, it's got Humpty Dumpty in it, so
it's probably so funny.
by Zach Galifianakis.
Okay.
So,
But they continue to be the funniest part.
yeah, and then there's this whole thing where they like Prince Charming goes, "Where's Shrek?" And Pinocchio is answering him in these lawyer talk kind of ways that don't make him lie. And that's very funny. They're like playing on the fairy tale. Because that's the other thing. In this movie, I don't feel like they're playing on the fairy tales, which is the strength of the series.
Yeah.
And then when they do, it usually feels lazy because it's doing it in a way that we saw in the other 2 movies already.
Yeah.
So then there are way too many references. Okay, so then they meet Merlin, Arthur, and Shrek.
Played by Eric Idle, not John Oliver.
And he's like crazy, washed up, used to teach at the high school.
He's like a hippie. That's what they're making. They're like basically stereotyping him as a hippie.
Yeah. And here's what
I'd say his animation is actually the most interesting as a human.
Yeah.
Because they animate him to look crazy visually beyond him wearing the Merlin getup.
Yeah.
But his face looks different than every other human.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And here's the problem with Merlin. They don't play on the fact that he's Merlin.
No.
There's no like sword in the stone jokes.
No. Yeah, King Arthur is there.
There's no what are you thinking?
I know.
It could have even been a throwaway like, hey, there's a sword. Do you want to try this out in the backyard? And he's like, no, I gotta go.
Yeah,
Anything like that.
Or just like they didn't even, like we said previously, the scene is so ugly because it just takes place
It's
outside
just
of his
grass
home.
and dirt.
When I'm sure the inside of his home looks awesome. Or just crazy, kooky, whatever.
Yeah, it could have been like a Back to the Future, like a huge guitar amp kind of thing. Not that, but And so
that would actually be a pretty funny joke. If they did
if
a Back
he was
to the
just
Future.
the doc, basically.
Like they go in there and the DeLorean's in there.
Yeah, that would be funny. Yeah. But again, wasted opportunity. Merlin's just kind of there, and I'm sure the actor's doing fine. It's just the stuff that's written for him. It's not real. It's just not fun. Diminishing returns.
Yeah.
It's not that funny.
Yeah.
He's like, you guys want some food? And he pulls out rocks and starts eating rocks. Okay. I guess. And you're talking to two people who liked Shrek 1 and 2. So I don't think it's us not liking the series.
2 times. Which is good.
So then...
But the scene is to establish how King Arthur's like, I'm a loser. I'm no one. And then Shrek said something about, like, you have to believe in yourself.
Well, and they start talking about how Arthur is afraid to be king because his dad left when he was young. And Shrek's like, well, my dad treated me really bad, too. And then they kind of bond, and they become buds.
Yeah.
And then they're attacked. And they have to, like, fight off all these bad guys.
Captain Hook and his goons.
And then I wrote... T attack, meant to be tree attack.
This is an appropriate time to bring up Tom Cruise.
Okay.
More than anything because I just feel like bringing him up.
How many times have we brought him up on this podcast?
Just making sure that we bring him up again.
Okay.
That's it?
That's it?
Yeah.
Wow, not even no relevance. She's just needing a palate cleanser.
Tom Cruise, baby.
Okay. So Rapunzel turns on Fiona. And then Prince Charming is able to capture Fiona.
Who I remind you is Maya Rudolph.
Yes,
Rapunzel is played by Maya Rudolph.
Yes. And then Shrek's like, hey, we got to go get the people. Arthur is like, oh, you were using me because you were supposed to be king?
Yep.
Classic,
I'm not your first choice.
A classic Shrek thing where there's a confusion with him. And so the princesses. So okay, this is a problem I had right away. The princesses are in prison. The princesses are in prison. The princesses are in prison, and she sells seashells down by the seashore. And the queen is with Fiona, and she butts her head into a wall, and she goes, "How did you think you learned where your fighting skills were from?"
Breaks the wall. Breaks it.
Breaks the wall by butting her head, and so they do that stupid thing with like. Where they try to explain something that never needs an explanation. Mm-hmm. So they explain that Fiona hereditarily got genes that made her good at fighting. Mm-hmm. Stupid. Mm-hmm. I don't like that. And I guess it could be a joke of the movie, but stupid. Mm-hmm. Hated that part.
I think that the movie started to get a little more exciting for me was when I think Fiona or her mom, I don't remember, like gives the princesses this pep talk. Like, it's time for us to take it back. That's when I realized, oh, this should have been a movie about girls doing it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't even mean in a feminist or a preachy way. Like, that just would have been interesting. Like, girls should have been the ones to win the kingdom back.
And maybe they should have done it because, you have a pretty good strong arc with the mother because her father or her husband just died. Yeah. That could be explored. Fiona's worried about being pregnant. That could be explored.
Isn't that weird? It doesn't make sense to me. This feels like this is more capitalist government than it is a royal government because the king dies and the queen just doesn't get to be part of it anymore.
Yeah.
Like she's just like basically the first lady.
Yeah.
Which I know that I'm really getting into way too much and this is really not important, but it's just kind of weird to me. It's weird. I guess.
Yeah, but it's just you have two really good arcs you could explore, but instead they don't explore any arc with Donkey. He has no arc in this movie. Mm-mm. Puss has no arc in this movie, and Shrek has an arc that is the same arc he's been through in 2 movies. Mm-hmm. So they make the main character of the movie 3 people that don't do anything. New. Boring. But we'll get back to that.
But
so the princesses break out.
Yeah, and Snow White like rips her sleeves off her dress to look more like rugged and cool. And they go to the gates of the castle.
Now they're gonna break back in.
Yeah, and I like this part where she, is singing and all of the woodland creatures come out.
And attack. And then we hear the really bad version of Barracuda by Heart. Yeah. But it's not by Heart, it's by a different band.
Yeah. Very confusing.
There
was another song
version.
Too, like right after that, where there was. No, not that one. I feel like a different one.
No, it was that one.
No, I know, but I feel like there was a different song too.
There were 3?
I just feel like there was a third one.
Okay, I don't remember a third one, but I believe you. So then, Prince Charming all the while he's doing a play to kill Shrek basically. And Shrek shows up and he's like, hey, I'm here for the play to cover.
Which a funny idea is that Prince Charming is using what he was so bad at in the beginning of the movie to make people respect him, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to, like, a public execution would probably more. Like that's the funny part. Anyway. And
then they break in. And there is this fun. This made me laugh out loud when the princesses are fighting, and Sleeping Beauty falls asleep and trips a guy.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So they basically break in, and the big climax is now they're at the stage. Shrek's tied up, and everybody's there. And then Arthur comes in, who prefers to be called Artie. He reiterates several times in the movie. He comes in and saves the day, and like. His arc completes because he's like, I can be king. And then Shrek's like, and Prince Charming gets killed because this thing falls on him. And they do this speech like, bad guys, you can choose to be what you want to be. And then the movie, I'm just blazing through the end.
Well, it's kind of like, I think like Shrek gives the bad guy, or maybe it's Arthur says it, like basically gives them the speech that Shrek gave him. Like, you can be whoever you believe, like, you just have to believe in yourself. That's the important part.
Yeah.
Which is just like, boo. I'm tired of even as a kid, I was just always like, okay.
Yeah.
I want like a cool, fun, like answer that you wrote. And I know it's a kid's movie and you usually have to teach a lesson.
But still.
That's what they're going for. But like, I don't know.
You can pull a Spider-Verse where that's an animated movie and the message is like, you can be a hero, but they're not like, hey, viewer, you can be a hero. They just play out the theme and you get it. So then the movie ends with them in the swamp. They have their kids, and Shrek has accepted the responsibility.
They have 3 kids, and they're ugly.
They're ugly little cusses. Yeah. So now this is what I've been waiting for the whole episode to get to, is why doesn't the movie work? Okay. So of course we've talked about how the humor is rehashed, and we've talked about the arcs of the minor characters. But here's the other thing. So I have a few of these jump in anytime. The minor characters that they've added to this movie are uninteresting and not worth exploring. The way they've written them, okay? The first half of the movie is Shrek 1, because Shrek goes on an adventure to go get in this case, king, in the previous movie, princess. And he's doing it for his own gain to get back to his swamp, okay? Same exact premise of 1. Then Shrek 2, he's storming the castle to save. I think it's a little bit different, but it's still like storming the castle to keep Prince Charming from taking the throne. So same as Shrek 2. So Shrek 3 is just Shrek 1 and Shrek 2. That's not how that works. Don't do that. That's the same thing.
Yep.
But here is my pitch, okay? Oh, man, I hope that you like this because I've been like excited to tell you. So Shrek 1, here's Shrek's arc. He learns to take care of himself. And through loving, like getting the wife and like actually accepting who he is. Okay. Would you agree that's Shrek 1?
I think also like trusting other people and being okay with getting help from other people.
Great. Yeah. And then Shrek 2, he really learns to take care of Fiona because he is willing to sacrifice his ogreness to be with her for whatever it takes. So Shrek 3, here's what I propose his arc should be. He is, because in the movie, his arc is he's selfish, and then he learns not to be selfish, which is a version of those other two. So I think he's learned how to take care of himself. He's learned how to take care of his family. So the next movie, Shrek the Third, he is still selfish, of course, but he learns to take care of like everybody and be more selfless in general, not just specifically about his family. And so my pitch would be that the frog dies, Shrek becomes king. He straight up becomes king, and he runs the kingdom really poorly for like an entire act. And then he discovers Arthur, and he doesn't really want to give up being king because he likes it. He likes the attention. He likes all that stuff. And then he finally...
Well, go ahead.
He gives it up because he knows it will... like him being king is good for him, but it's bad for the kingdom. And so then he gives it up to Arthur because, and I don't have the specifics, of course, of the plotting, but the basic idea is he gives it up to Arthur because he learns that even though it's self-serving to him and his family, that's not self-serving to the greater whole. And then he goes back to his swamp. I
think the hardest part would be convincing people that he likes being king, because that's out of character.
But I think if you have like a scene where he finds out that he can lazily sit around and like get all these bugs and stuff he likes to eat, and he's turning he's
that makes
even like
sense.
He's even turning the kingdom into like a swamp, and it's that like ruining the economy, and people are hating him for it. And he's like, yeah, but it's cool for me and my family.
Yeah.
And they have their kids, and then he learns like that's not what's helpful for everyone else.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's my pitch. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah.
Do you think it's better?
Better than this movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. I still like my idea too.
I like your idea.
Fiona more of a purpose.
I like your idea better.
Like maybe in your version, this is going on and Fiona's finding Arthur.
Great. That's the
movie.
Fix. That's the fix.
Sneeze. I can't believe we figured it out.
So that's all I got.
That's all I got. I am like done talking about it.
Well,
I am excited to watch the fourth one. Based
totally,
on everything we've seen so far.
We have no idea.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, everybody. Next week, we are coming out with Shrek Forever After. And then we do Puss in Boots, and then we jump right back into Marvel Phase 3. So stick with us. We're going to make it through this series. I think now it's actually starting to get a little more interesting. And rate, review, and subscribe, and tell people about it if they like movies.
Please, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And Anthony, cue the music.